from the 915 to H-Town, from the Panhandle Plains to the Valley, and everywhere in between. This is the 50/50 Podcast, powered by College Promoters USA. Join me, Hector Cano, as we cover the Texas high school club and college soccer landscape, along with an inside look at the college soccer recruiting scene. The 50/50 Podcast is a platform about the people and for the people who are dedicated to the beautiful game.
College Promoters USA, founded and located in San Antonio, operates as the only family-owned college recruiting company in Texas that brings a truly professional, local, and face-to-face approach to area high school student athletes and their families. If your son or daughter is serious about college athletics, call them at 210-494-6363 or visit collegepromotersusa.com anytime. College Promoters USA, the best investment a parent can make in their high school student athletes.
Here we go. It's a special Easter edition of Inside #Texas High School Soccer. Glad to be here today. I'm joined once again by the coach himself, Rafa C. Rafa, how are you, buddy?
Pretty good. Just enjoying my Easter, watching the Real Madrid pull another comeback this week over Sevilla. So this is enjoying. And then last night's game, the I-10 Derby with El Paso. That was a great game. You know, we got the win. So we got the first Copa Tejas win for the year. So.
Right. And again, happy Easter to everybody. And kind of part of the reason why we're coming to you today, excuse me, today rather than yesterday after last night's epic final versus Lake Travis and Plano. We knew it was going to have the potential to go late. And then also, as Rafa and I had mentioned on a previous episode, we were actually attending another match while watching the Lake Travis Plano match simultaneously. So, got to watch a really good match last night in San Antonio FC and El Paso Locomotive FC. Really good match. So that was good to watch. And then, Real, man, they just one of these days, I'm just afraid they're going to go to the well and it's going to dry up. But Benzema's in exceptional form right now. So, so that's awesome. So we're here, we're going to review, we're going to look back at championship Saturday, the day that was yesterday, the four key games, the championship games for 5A and 6A, both on the girls and boys side. And then we'll kind of dive in a little bit. We'll have a special guest joining us in a little bit who will be talking about, he's going to dive in a little bit into the breakdown by regions as to how this week looked from each regional perspective. And then we'll kind of do an end of season, kind of a little mini recap, some final thoughts on the season that was, and look to the season ahead. Because yes, it's already that time where we'll start looking at the upcoming season next year, because a lot of changes coming for sure. So going into yesterday's matchups, which we're going to go into in detail in a minute. What were your initial thoughts, Coach, going into yesterday?
Because we know there were some key games coming up and some intriguing matchups. Like I said, like South Lake Carroll versus Rockwall, Lakeland versus Dripping Spring Boys. We know, is Lakeland going to pull off another title win? Even the Lakeland girls, they versus Grapevine. That was going to be a Metroplex, two powerhouses from the Metroplex going against each other, and then the nightcap with Lake Travis and Plano. Will Lake Travis finally cap off the season, after disappointment from last year, be able to pull it off and win the state title? So four great, excellent games. They're at Birkenbach Field. They're in Georgetown, and I'm sure every single one was exciting to watch. So if you're in person, you're lucky to see them. And now we have four new state champions for 2022.
Absolutely. So we'll go to the first game of the day, which was started at 11 a.m. The 5A girls state final between Frisco, Lakeland, and Grapevine. Two teams that are familiar with each other. Obviously, they've only played, I think, if I understood it correctly, I think this was only their third or fourth time ever actually meeting. But yeah, obviously Frisco, Lakeland going for their third title, and Grapevine. I had been big on Grapevine for a good while now. So not surprised whatsoever to see them playing in the state final. So all right, so we go to so that initial match. Of course, it ended in Frisco Wakeland winning it 3-2, but it was probably could have been. You can make the argument in terms of might have been the most dramatic game of the day in terms of how it played out. But then you can also make that argument for how we ended the day, right? And we'll get to that a little bit later between Lake Travis and Plano, but. Excuse me. So right off the bat, this game was going to be interesting in terms of the styles we're going to make for great matchups. And pretty early, Grapevine forward Sam Larson thought she initially had a goal, had it called back. I know there was a bit of controversy over that, but this was a clear back and forth with no team could really capture momentum for an extended period. And it went into the half tied 0-0. Initial thoughts on that first half, Coach?
That with those both teams, they had pretty much real convincing wins going into the final, and I think like we thought with the edge would be with Grapevine having those, especially those 30-yard or rocket tosses, throw-ins from outside the box. How was Wakeland gonna defend those? Because they were going against the wind, and they did a good job. They were able to prevent the Grapevine from getting any goals in it. So I'm sure that felt good going in the half at 0-0. Able to stop them now that they're going to have the one on their back, which was kind of going to hamper those throws on the other end. So, like I said, pretty even matchup. That's what we kind of knew going in. There might be some little, whoever made the first errors pretty much was, gonna take advantage of that and take the lead and so forth. So, but
Right.
overall, like I said, first half was pretty much split.
Yeah, so that one component with Grapevine that they really take advantage of, right, in the throw-ins, that's where we see the first goal, a big throw-in again from Sam Lumpkin, who had gotten a lot of notoriety during this tournament about it, because I mean she can heave it in excess of 30 yards pretty easily too, and so about 9 minutes in, the Grapevine gets the goal. Forward Sam Larson off of one of those throw-ins from Sam Lumpkin. About 10 minutes later, Grapevine strikes again. Presley Rhodes struck a ball, made a run inside the box, and sends the ball in. Looked like it was going in. I don't know, possibly hits the inside of the left post there. And in the score box, I think it goes down as a credit to her rather than an own goal. But there was the argument as to the own goal, obviously. So here we are. You're about halfway through the second half there, and all of a sudden, Grapevine's up 2-0, and they look like they clearly have momentum. It becomes a little bit of back and forth. Grapevine can't find another one, can't find the third one to seal it, to cement it, if you will, over the next 10 minutes. So here we are. All of a sudden, we're inside of 9 minutes. 9 minutes to go in the second half, and Wakeland finds the back of the net. Corey Cochran, she finishes from just inside the 18-yard box. So you got about 8 minutes left to go here, and now it's 2-1. It's tight. About 4 minutes later, Corey Cochran for Wakeland strikes again with she was given just enough space, and a 27-yard blast. 2-2. Here we are now in the final 4 minutes of the game. So that because of that, we go 2-2 at the end of regulation, go into the second half, and nothing through the first overtime. In the second overtime, with about 4 minutes remaining, Wakeland strikes again. It was Bella James on a header off of a corner kick. So suddenly you've seen Frisco Wakeland now run off 3 unanswered goals to take the lead inside of the final moments of the minutes, that is, of the game there in the second overtime. And then probably what ends up being, you can make the argument, but up to that point, possibly, maybe with the exception of Salinas, Caitlin Gustafson, what could have been the save of the tournament. You have Wakeland's goalkeeper, Drew Stover. She makes the game-winning save in the final seconds of that second overtime. She finishes the day with 3 saves because that ball was headed for the goal. and she made an unbelievable save, and the game finishes up, and Wakeland claims their third state title in program history, and Wakeland's Corey Cochran is named the final MVP. Thoughts on this one when you look back on it?
Uh, I guess Wakeland, after being down 2-0, they must have, like I said, they must have saw some Real Madrid games. It was like, hey, let's do, if they can do, we can do it too. So I mean, they didn't quit. After when you go down 2-0, especially late in that, late into the second half, you chances are you're going to lose the game. But these girls, they never gave up. They kept faith, and they just kept grinding, and finally got one in, and that one goal basically got that momentum for them, and then ended able to equalize, and then to get the winner on the header on the overtime was great. But the save of, I'm going to call this the save of the year for Texas high school soccer for boys and girls.
Wow,
This was the save of the year. I mean, if someone took pictures of it, hopefully she has a poster on there on her wall to memorialize it. They can put that at the school too, because that ball was going in, but just a textbook top hand. Right. She was able to react to it because she had a lot of players in front, and that could have, a deflection could have taken it off course and got into the net, but she anticipated well and got that top hand, and that proved to be like I said, the clincher right there for Wakeland to get their third straight title.
Yeah. So congrats to the Mustangs, to the Grapevine Mustangs. They finish the season as the state runner-up. There's no shame in that whatsoever. They played an incredible game, and just Wakeland. It's more of a tribute, I think, to Wakeland's ability to just not quit. So congratulations to the Wakeland Wolverines. They are your 2022 5A girls state champions. So we moved on to game two. Where game two you saw was the 5A boys final between Frisco Wakeland and Dripping Springs. So it was another DFW ATX Austin, Texas matchup here. What were your initial thoughts going into this one?
Well, this one was an interesting matchup because Wakeland, with all the adversity they had all the season to finish second in their district, a lot of people had them written off, and especially that regional final with Lone Star, because Lone Star pretty much beating them twice, and thinking, okay, well, now we're gonna have a changing of the guard. But some way, somehow, like I said, this is the time of the year where they really shine. They really show their tradition. That's why they're a dynasty. They find a way to win, and to going into this game, that's something that Dripping Springs had to had them back in their mind and said, can we pull this off? And Dripping Springs too had a great season. They only had, like I said, one loss, and they knocked off some really good teams, and like I said, this was their opportunity to put their stake in, to end this dynasty and get their first state title. But something about Wakeland, like I said, something in the water over there is really helping them.
The water. We heard about the water all weekend.
Right? Water over there to get some into the state tournaments, and then also the state finals every year these last few years. So but like I said, this is going to be a good matchup. I don't think Wakeland's going to take them Dripping Springs lightly, and vice versa. So, but we expected a very good game, coming into this one.
Yeah, and we knew Coach Hill over at Dripping Springs, he was going to have the boys ready. They had gone on this incredible run here to the state title matchup, and ironically, on the girls' side, they had gotten more of the press, more of the pub, just because they were the defending state champion, playing incredible soccer. Obviously, had a 44, I believe, game winning streak. So rightfully so. That was well deserved by the girls' program, and the boys' program was just was there, just doing their thing, plugging away, and kept producing, kept getting the job done. Big moment after big moment, and found themselves in the state title game. So this game, unfortunately, how it kind of played out, you can make, you had Wakeland coming in, you knew exactly who Wakeland was or is, and they came in playing in their sixth straight. That is not a typo. Playing in their sixth straight state title game, 5A state title game. So that says a lot in itself when you talk about culture and pedigree and commitment to excellence. Easier said than done, obviously, but so this one was kind of an interesting one, because immediately Wakeland comes in, jumps on Dripping Springs, takes the lead on Ryan Greener goal off of a throw-in in the box 3 minutes into the match. So immediately now you have Dripping Springs now has to chase the game, right? Which can be tough against a team like Wakeland. So about 11 minutes later, Wakeland strikes again. William Heidman has a near post header on an assist from Brennan Bezdek. And down 2-0, here we are about 14 minutes in. And then about 4 minutes before halftime, Wakeland strikes again. Hazani Torres puts it back in off a throw-in in the box. So it's 3-0 at halftime. And it was clearly very much a one-sided had been largely, Drip was starting to find their moments, but it was still tough for them. And it had been largely a one-sided affair. So, and they went down at half down 3-0.
Yeah. When you're playing a team that's been, like I said, been to the final 6 straight years, you cannot, give goals to them. You can't get behind, because when you get behind, it's going to be tough to get back in. And like I said, Wakeland has that experience. Once they get you in a hole, they know how to keep you in the hole, and they turn it up a notch, and they clamp down on their play, make sure that they with their whatever system, like I said, their system play, and make sure that their defense is solid and so forth. And like I said, I expected a little bit more from Dripping Springs, in this game, like more of a fight. But I think those 2 early goals really, I think, killed their confidence, and they just didn't recover from it, and didn't know how to recover from it too, because they haven't really been in that situation, all year, except for maybe that one loss they had. But it's a learning experience for them. Hopefully they'll learn this and take this when they move on to next year, when they move on to 6A. But just kudos to Wakeland. They know how to pick you apart, and how it's in this type of game. They're made for this game, and they've shown it the last 6 years, minus that one setback they had with Bel Air. They know how to take care of business. So so congrats to Wakeland. This program is in the dynasty right now, and who's going to challenge? Like I said, who's going to challenge them next year? In 5A for for the 2023 season. They're probably going to be the favorite again to come back to defend the title.
Yeah. And they make that switch. Is it a switch? I'm trying to remember. I know they'll be in 10-5A. Is that what they were already in, or do they make that switch?
I think they're going to be now. I think in 9-5A now.
Or is it?
So they have some. Yeah, they'll have a couple Frisco teams, and I think with the Carrollton teams too. So
okay. Yeah,
I think, and then Louisville Colony as well. So it's still a tough district. It's. And like I said, the first round game, they're gonna have to play some of their fellow Frisco ISD schools. So it's not a gimme for them. But like I said, with their coaching staff and the players, they understand the process and what it takes and what their expectations are. And for them, their expectations is not just to get in the playoffs. They expect to win it all every year, and that's what you want to get your program to be at.
Right. Yeah. So, they come out second half. They're up 3-0 over Dripping Springs, and you largely got the sense going in that it was just in that start of that second half that Wakeland was just, they were content to keep possession based, try to keep it away from Dripping Springs, organize defensively, and just not give Dripping Springs any opportunities. Right. Just don't make any mistakes. Don't cough up the ball in certain areas on the field. And that's largely what it was in the second half. So in the end, final score ends up Frisco Wakeland 3, Dripping Springs 0. MVP for the match is Wakeland's William Heidman. I do have to go back to the girls' match. MVP for Wakeland's victory was Corey Cochran. So shout out to her. But MVP for the state final, for the 5A boys state final, ends up being William Heidman. And the Wake boys, they win their 5th title fifth state title. Their fifth in 6 years, with the only speed bump being in 2019, as we had just mentioned, but their sixth consecutive state title. And also, the other piece of history that was made there was Lakeland, who had done it already one time before in sweeping the state title on both the boys and girls side in 2018. They become the first program to ever do it two times. So incredible stuff there from Lakeland. And congratulations, obviously, to the Dripping Springs Tigers on an exceptional season. I think Coach Hill's got them going on the right track. They will go forward they will push up into 6A. They'll be in a tough district with the new defending state champion, which we'll get to in a little bit, and Lake Travis, along with Austin Westlake, to name a few. So congratulations to the Dripping Springs Tigers. And to the Frisco Lakeland Wolverines, they are your 2022 5A boys state champions. So we move over to game 3, Coach. South Lake Carroll versus Rockwall. Rockwall coming off of that incredible win, right? That incredible upset win over Ridge Point. And they were ready. They were game. They had confidence. They were ready to go. And they were going up against a very young but exceptionally talented South Lake Carroll squad that was still growing, right? They were still evolving because of how young they were, but they had enough of that senior leadership talent in Hannah Khan, who had been there in that 2019 title. So, and they had three players that are in that U.S. Youth National Team pool, including their freshman phenom, Kennedy Fuller, who she had a day yesterday. Thoughts on this one going in?
Yeah, I mean, Rockwall's coming into the game from a big emotional win, knocking off the only team that was still undefeated, either boys and girls, which was Ridge Point, and then one of your perennial powers that they get lost a little bit on the shuffle in Region 1 because you had some other teams that that were in it, like Flower Mound, because Flower Mound knocked off Prosper. You had Marcus, and you had some of the like your Kellers and so forth. So they, but South Lake Carroll found a way. They got in. They got into the final. They took care of business in the semifinal, and no problem against Westlake. They really flexed their muscle on that game, and so they knew going to this one against Rockwall, they couldn't take them lightly because they already knocked off one Goliath. And it's like, so we're gonna have to go out there and take them out of their rhythm and so forth, and we were gonna see if Rockwall, can they carry that momentum from that game in the semifinal into the final, and finally get and get them that state title. So those are the training the scenarios going into this game.
Yeah, and this one was interesting too, just because you had talked about the South Lake Carroll. Was the scary part about them was they were starting to look scary good. They were peaking at the right time, and still with an incredibly young group of players. So it was kind of one of those of they're loaded in talent, but are they going to, will the moment be too much for this exceptionally young group that is incredibly talented? And they were ready. They were ready. And I think just like anything similar to that Dripping Springs game where they kind of needed Rockwall needed things to go a certain way. They needed to kind of get out to a certain start, right? And that not quite as early, but they allowed, first goal, 13 minutes in, Kennedy Fuller with a 25-yard strike. And then you have probably about 7 minutes later, I believe, you have Kennedy Fuller once again in a 1v1 finish on a through ball assist from Hannah Khan, and they go in. So Carroll is up 2-0 at the half. Thoughts on that after that Carroll kind of getting out to that quick start in that first half?
Yeah, Carroll knew that they needed to do a quick start because they didn't want to give Rockwall any hopes or any momentum from the carrying over to the last game, because if going down, if they did go down, it was going to be a dogfight for them. And like I said, I've got the pleasure to see them play this year here in San Antonio, and they struggled when they played behind. When I saw them against Bernie Champion really took it to them and really frustrated them. I know. South Lake was missing a couple of players, but you can tell that they were really having a hard time trying to get back into, even though that they could equalize it. I think they didn't want to play from behind again. and
Right.
they were able to like say, hey, let's get these two, let's get some goals in into the half. That way we have a great lead, and then we put some down into the other team, and sure enough, they were able to accomplish that.
Yeah. Yeah. And so they come out, they come out second half 2-0. We talk about that, historically speaking, people, there's a no cliche that goes with that about it being the most dangerous lead in soccer, right? And South Lake Carroll just they put that to bed immediately. They come out with two quick goals to start the second half in rapid succession, about I think 3 minutes apart. So within the first 4 minutes of the second half, you get a 35-yard strike on a set piece, a free kick from Zoe Matthews. 3 minutes later, Kennedy Fuller strikes with a 15-yard strike in the box on an assist from Zoe Matthews. And just like that, here we are. We basically just started the second half, and now Rockwall is looking at the uphill battle of being down 4-0 against a very, very strong opponent. Uh, so, and that's how it plays out the rest of the way. And so, game finishes up, and Rockwall. Rockwall had a few opportunities, give their best to try to push into the attacking third, make some opportunities, but in the end, it was just a little too much. South Lake Carroll, based upon those early goals, that early lead they had gotten out to, with Rockwall trying to chase the game. Score finishes South Lake Carroll 4, Rockwall 0, and of course, you end up with a freshman in Kennedy Fuller, who had the hat trick on the day. She ends up being the state final MVP, and the Dragons win their third state title, their first since 2019, so pre-pandemic. And so congratulations to them. What were your final thoughts on this one, Coach?
I mean, what can you say about Salt Lake Carroll? Like I said, they've been one of the consistent teams this year and one of the talented teams. The scary part of this is they're returning a lot of players back for next year, but there's, like I said, they're still in that tough Region One, and like we talked about, like Flower Mound, everybody thought Flower Mound was done, and they knock off Prosper, and but then like I said, they got knocked out by another, by Marcus. So the good thing is like I said, they have a lot of, like I said, with them having a lot coming back, they have the experience, but they're gonna have, the thing is now they're gonna have that target on their back, and can they, as for moving forward, can they come back and repeat and defend their title? Everyone's going to be gunning for them. So, and like I said, I think they have a good opportunity. That because they have they have the talent, they have the experience now.
Right.
So, but the thing is, when you have that big target on you, you never know, things can go wrong, and they can get your season short. There's some, like I said, we had some favorites that we thought they were going to go deep, and they didn't get past the first round. So I know they're going to be aware of that. I know the coaching staff will be aware of that, and they'll get them mentally prepared. But as far as with this game, just shout out to them because they played a heck of a game, and they didn't want to give it, like I said, leave any hopes for Rockwall to come back into this and solid game. But also with Rockwall, congrats to them. Really they were really not on the radar as far as winning Region 2. They weren't really the favorite, but they found a way to get in and knock out. Like I said, they knocked off on the top team in the state that was undefeated with Ridgepoint, and kudos to them get into the state finalists, becoming the state finalists, and hopefully they can use that to build for to next year. Like I said, they have a great coaching staff as well. Hopefully, like I said, that'll help them get back into the state tournament next year.
Yeah, no doubt. Shout out to the Lady Jackets of Rockwall on an exceptional season, exceptional, a magical run, as they put it. And I know, shout out also to their supporters, one of their big boosters, and Rockwall County Game Day. Shout out to them as well. Had the opportunity of get to meet them sort of briefly, but yeah, I think they were doing a lot of great stuff, putting stuff out there. We talked about the moment also with Coach Garcia. So as we indicated yesterday, we definitely were inclined to, that's a pretty young group too. So I think that we're going to hear from them again. So what they gained in terms of just confidence, experience this year. There's a lot to be said for that. So congratulations to Rockwall. They are your state runner-up. And to the South Lake Carroll Dragons, they are your 2022 6A girls state champions. And then we move on to the nightcap, Coach. The final game of the day, the final game of Championship Saturday, the final match of the 2022 Texas high school soccer season in the 6A boys final between Lake Travis and Plano. Initial thoughts going into this one?
Well, for this game, we knew that Lake Travis was a favorite going in, and, the scenario was, can they finish the job, finish the fight? Can you, at the end of the night, be holding that trophy? And on the other way, Plano, who's had a great run, knocking out some pretty quality teams, especially that Seven Lakes team, who I thought was, maybe a little bit better, just technical wise, but Plano just exploded, came back, it took it from them, and listen, and here in the situation, trying to go, I think their 7th state title appearance, I believe.
Yeah, they have 6. Yeah. You talk about pedigree for sure. Yeah.
So they have that history, but it's been a while since they've been back. But here's their opportunity. And
2009 was the last time they had been here. Yeah.
So a good 13 years there. So, this was worth the wait. And I think Lake Travis might have been a little bit nervous about that. Hey, this team has been really resilient. And, it was kind of the game for them to lose. If they didn't play get ahead and, kind of flex their muscle and almost, it could have turned the other way. What happened, and I was checking, like I said, during the game last night, I was checking for updates, and I kept on seeing 0-0, 0-0, 0 at the half. Whoa, what's going on here? Right. And I'm thinking, is Plano going to pull off probably a big upset here? And then I saw 0-0 at the end of regulation, and then after the overtime, we're going to penalty kicks.
Right. Yeah, and the thing about that one going into that match too is Plano's also, I know some people were citing about some players playing, I think in between Dallas Cup appearances as well. So I guess that was coming back and forth, and it's not an excuse for Plano at all. It's the reality of the situation. We don't know, and one can only to a certain extent speculate. We don't know the full story, but also, I mean, kudos to them because Plano was just coming off of that grueling match versus Seven Lakes that you just talked about the night before, right? So because that was the nightcap the day before. So that was asking, they gave a monumental effort. You could, Lake Travis probably slight edge in terms of the slightly fresher legs and how their semifinal played out. But yeah, it turned into a defensive duel, and you got that impression that, hey, the longer it stayed tight, the longer it stayed 0-0, the fact that anything could happen, right? So, and you look back on it, yeah, Lake Travis ended up having more opportunities as they outshot Plano 16-3. But how it kind of played out was still pretty remarkable, made for a great defensive battle. And so after 100 minutes, no score. And I did want to give a shout out there to Plano goalkeeper Henry Huffstetler, who ended up with 8 saves on the night. And so he had a lot to say in terms of keeping him and that defense, in terms of keeping that game tight. And then so after 100 minutes, no score, still no score, right, including our 2 overtime periods. So we go to penalties. What are your thoughts going into that penalty shootout there, Coach?
I think for Lake Travis, like, here we go again. Last year we lost some penalty kicks to Lee, and Plano, I'm sure they were happy about this. Hey, we have a chance right here to knock them off, and I'm sure that was going through all the whoever shot for Lake Travis in their mind, going into this. We need to deliver because we've worked so hard to get to here. This is us for us to the taking, and now we're in this situation, and to lose it in this, do you call it a successful season after knocking off Reagan, after knocking off Harlan? It was a lot of pressure on them, but I think they showed their grit on this on the PKs, and like I said, they found a way to win and finally finish and as I say, mission accomplished by the Cavaliers.
Yeah, and so they go into penalties. Lake Travis is able to convert on all their opportunities. Lake Travis goalkeeper Adam Shantz, he has not one but two saves in the shootout, including the game-winning save, the walk-off save, if you will. And yeah, I mean, it ends advantage Lake Travis 4-3 in the shootout for an official final score of 1-0 Lake Travis. And Lake Travis goalkeeper Adam Shantz is named MVP. Kudos to him. And it marks the first state title for any greater Austin area squad on the boys side, which is pretty remarkable when you really stop and think about it. So yeah. And then the other thing to highlight there, I know it was brought up quite a bit in terms of, on that boys side in particular, the state title remaining in region 4 after, as you had mentioned, Lee winning it last year. What are your kind of thoughts on that?
I think what you can say that in regards to Region 4 for 6A boys, they've shown that they can compete with anybody. I think a lot has to do is the scheduling of games early on. Now you're seeing teams like Reagan, like Travis, Westlake, Lee go up to that North Texas showcase. And I think they understand that we're going to see this type of teams probably in the state tournament. We need to know how, as far as the speed of the game, so we're accustomed to it. That like I said, that we won't get caught off, in which there's some teams that get caught off of it, and which we'll discuss later. They're not at that level as far as the speed of the game. Because the soccer up there is a lot different from here, but that goes to, like I said, great planning to play those games and so forth, and then having success over there allows gives you the confidence knowing that you can compete with these teams. So, and I think maybe that's the blueprint now, maybe for some of the other teams, which we'll discuss. And like I said, we're going to discuss. In order for you to compete, because if you notice, I guess with the some of the state champions, most of them were from that Metroplex area.
Right.
And so it's kudos for the 6A, because it represents that, I think sometimes we get 6A Region 4 gets overlooked, but it just shows how much talent we have down here, how many great teams. I mean, we have other great teams besides not only like Lake Travis and Lee. You have Reagan, you have the Harlans, you got Westlake, Vandergrift's another great team, and then you have your couple Valley teams too, and it just, and then you had like I said, you had a Laredo team that made it to the regional tournament. So it's just showing that the soccer's down here is really improving and getting better and better, more competitive. So, and it's gonna, like I said, I think in the future it's gonna get a lot tougher to get out. It's gonna be like a dogfight to get out of this region for the boys.
Right. Yeah. So again, congratulations to the one thing you can say about the Plano Wildcats. Plano Senior High School is, the Wildcats are back, right? They've been gone for what many people would consider way too long. Their first return trip since 2009. You talk about the pedigree there with them, the tradition, their 6 state titles. So it was great to see them back, and no shame whatsoever in being the state runner-up. It was great to see them back, and congratulations again to the Lake Travis Cavaliers. They are your 2022 boys 6A state champion. So congrats, boys. All right, so we are going to go ahead and now we're going to transition here, Coach. We're going to go ahead and bring on our next guest here. He is Mr. Steve Sanchez. Steve, how are you, buddy?
Hey guys, how's it going, guys? Doing well.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome. So Steve, a little bit of background on Steve. He is kind of a part of our the 50/50 podcast team. He's a team contributor here. So we're going to kind of take a breakdown here of the weekend that was by a regional breakdown here. So Steve's going to go ahead as I share my screen here. He's going to go ahead and break down for us what we're looking at. And I think you should be able, can you see that, Steve?
Yeah, I could see it. Thank you, Hector and Rafa, for having me on the show. I'm a supporter of both of y'all's shows, so it's pretty cool to actually be on the show. So
No
appreciate it.
pressure. No pressure.
Yeah, no pressure at all. So yeah, just a couple. I got about 3 or 4 takeaways from this weekend's state tournament. First one, I was going to start off in Region 4, where we all live. Region 4 boys, 2 out of the 3 titles. With Austin Lake Travis taking the win late last night, right? As well as the Bernie boys. 2 out of those 3 boys titles. From the 4A, 5A, 6A classification coming out of Region 4, and not just this year, but going back to last year. With Lee and Bernie as well. Winning 2 out of 3 as well. So I think you're starting to see a little bit of a shift here, and with me being a soccer trainer, I might be a little biased here in San Antonio, but the fact that I think that the soccer is it's getting to be pretty solid down here as far as the boys side is concerned on the in the high school level. So kudos to Region 4, and congratulations to Bernie, of course, for back-to-back titles, and Austin Lake Travis. Other topic takeaway that I wanted to bring up was the fact of Region 3. Out of all of those teams that made it, to state, Region 3, they didn't have this year, any wins. And I know, in the fact that I, being a club coach, you've got so much talent in the Houston area. So it was just a little shocking for, the Houston Region 3 teams to go, 0-3 on the boys, as well as, 0-3 on the girls side as well, because there's so much talent out there in the Houston region, and greater Houston surrounding areas as well. Another takeaway, Region 1 and 2 girls. I mean, what can you say about that? It's just, for them to go a total, I think it's 9-3, in this state tournament. If you combine, the girls Region 1 and 2, which is predominantly DFW area, for them to go 9-3 in the state tournament it's remarkable. And it just shows that, the talent that's up there in the, North Texas, Dallas, Fort Worth area. So, well done to all those teams that came out of those 2 regions. And, those 2 regions, just sometimes coming out of that region, right? It's kind of a, almost close to like, very, very, very high quality soccer just to get out of Region 1 and Region 2. And so, that really prepares them for, for state. Another thing kind of to take off of that is just another takeaway is Frisco Lakeland. I mean, on the boys and the girls side, to do, win the titles of, on both ends, and the 5A classification is just incredible. But I mean, and I think you spoke about it earlier. It's not the first time they've done it, right? It's the second time they've actually done that. So, congratulations to the, Frisco Wakeland boys and girls, and really all the teams. Just getting there is just incredible for, those, the kids, the boys, the girls to get there, the coaches, the staff, as well as the parents. A lot of time goes into, getting these boys and girls developed. So, congratulations, not just to, Frisco, but any team that made state. That's, it's really an incredible story, and in each team that makes it up there, it's an incredible story just to get there.
Right. Yeah, these are a great breakdown here A great breakdown here, Steve. And again, for our listeners, those that may listen to this later, particularly on the audio podcast, what we are looking at here is the region by region breakdown uh, of performances of records as it pertains to this week during championship week. Region one went overall; they went 5-5 on the week, with the boys going 1-3 and the girls 4-2. Region two went 8-3, an incredible 8-3 overall, with the boys going 3-2 and the girls an exceptional 5-1. Region three overall 0-6, with and that being evenly split between the boys and girls. And then Region four going 5-4, with the boys going a very strong, similar to the Region two girls, going a very strong 5-1, and then the girls going 0-3. Rafa, what anything in particular in terms of when you look at this breakdown and you look at just the beyond the numbers, anything kind of uh, surprise you or kind of different, contradict what you maybe thought as this weekend wrapped up?
Well, looking at it seems to be a big gap as far as level of play between in the girls side from region 1 and 2 versus 3 and 4. And then this was a discussion I had also with Harry with a roundtable about, San Antonio was having kind of experiencing the problems with the girls soccer having a gap with the Austin schools, because last year they got basically swept by them. And this year, like I said, they were able to win a couple games this year, so they kind of bounced back. But if you're looking to see that North Texas area for girls soccer is more dominant than the girls here in South Texas. And, I'm wondering how could those region 3 and 4 close the gap for that? Because I know it's been a while since we've had, for especially with the higher classifications like a 6A girls and 5A girls, minus dripping springs from last year to win the title. And then looking Houston's is a big surprise there. You got some powerhouses teams on like Friendswood, for the girls. Some of the Katy teams, and like I said, like Magnolia and so forth. And when they run into for example, run into a Dallas area team, they just can't get over the hump. So I think that's one thing to kind of look at. That just what are these two regions be able to do to close that gap and be able to contend next year, and finally get a breakthrough and get a state title.
Yeah, great point. And Steve, I guess to your take on this, and again, full background, full disclosure. Obviously, as Steve mentioned, Steve, in addition to being a part of the 50/50 podcast team, a team contributor, he's also a local trainer, local coach here in the greater San Antonio area. Years of experience, years of statistical analysis as it relates to Texas high school soccer. So when I say his stuff goes a while back, it goes a while a while back. So it's great to have you here, Steve. But from your perspective, Steve, as to what's maybe going into this week, into championship week, versus the numbers that came out at the end of it that we're looking at here, what maybe caught you by surprise the most, if anything?
The most surprising, I mean, to me, is just the region 3. Just like I said, the fact that I know when we host tournaments here in San Antonio, as well as play in tournaments in the Houston area. Like I said, there's so much talent over there as far as their club scene is concerned. For them to go, and I know you're playing right in state, you're playing the elite, the top of the top, the champion from each region. So I do understand that, but typically when we play those Houston teams, they've got some really, really good talent over there. So I guess kind of my biggest point was, or takeaway from this weekend, was just the fact that they, went 0-6. And then as well, I mean, historically speaking, they're in the mix of it. I want to say last year was something similar. I don't think they went 0-6, but Um, I don't think they did as well as they have historically. So that was kind of my, biggest takeaway when I started doing my statistical analysis on, what I captured from this year's um, state tournament.
Right. Rafa, you got anything else for Steve?
Uh, Steve, do you think that the big issue maybe, because I know we've coached together because we were part of Houston, Dallas Texans, and that's how
Right.
we first met. Do you think the club soccer in the Houston area, as far as development's kind of gone down a bit, or do you think some of those academy coaches are not allowing their players to play within the high schools? Because I had a situation with a friend of mine that coaches out in Region 3. He would tell me that he had a great team, and he was at 6A, but he said I would make the regional term, possibly state tournament, if I had 4 of these players that were playing for the Dynamo, but they wouldn't allow them to play.
Mm-hmm.
It's high school soccer. So, do you think that might be something that's going on? That's why the best of the best players are not playing in with their high school teams.
Yeah, to me, if that's what's happening, then for sure that's probably what's holding them back. So, just a quick background: I coach here at San Antonio Surf, and I covered an 05 boys game last weekend for our sporting director here at Surf, and we played against an Albion Hurricanes team, and I think the teams were pretty evenly matched, but they came to play and they wound up, knocking us off. But and I saw talent, on both sides of the field. I can see that there's talent there in Houston, and like I said, tournaments and stuff like that. When we play against, Houston teams historically, they're strong. I mean, they're very strong. And if anything, I've played probably more just because geography. We've played more Houston teams than we have Dallas teams. But yeah, that could be, Rafa. To answer your question, I think that could be a big possibility if a club is, holding players back from playing for their high school. Then yeah, that could be a big reason why we're starting to see Region 3 drop a little bit annually in the state tournament. So, but yeah, they're still great teams, that make it. It's just yeah, I mean, it's something to discuss, right? It's something that should be brought up because of the fact that I know right now I'm currently coaching an 09 boys team and freshmen, and they're just thrilled to go out and play for their high school. So I'm sure it's the same in Houston, that boys and girls, if they're in that Dynamo Academy, that they want to earn that Letterman jacket and walk the hallways. And but yeah, so that's probably the case. I don't know, but I have noticed in the last few years, of course, 2020 we didn't really get a state tournament, but I have noticed. I think the last champion I want to say was Ailey Felsick in 2018 for boys and girls. So now we're going on for now 2022 is over. Going on 5 years that a Houston team has won a state title, but for them to not even get a semifinal win this year was just a little shocking for me. Yeah.
Yeah, and while I got you on here, Steve, your big moment. What's maybe you look back on this? You look back on the state tournament from this week, championship week, as we dubbed it. What's maybe your one biggest moment that you'll recall when you look back on this particular tournament? Maybe one thing that came across in any particular match, a big moment, something. What's maybe the signature moment for you? Regarding the state tournament?
So for me, I think just a little looking back, I mean, it's pretty fresh in our memories, today with it being the day after, and I think we've had, some great soccer games to watch since Wednesday. But I think South Lake Carroll, their squad is so young, and for them to, win the state title, and man, that was really impressive. Some of the freshmen and sophomores that they have on the team, and I think they're going to be back, and trying to win that title again. So that was something that I was very impressed with. That South Lake Carroll team. They move the ball around really well. They play very confidently. But yeah, that was one thing that I was just their youth, but also their talent, right? Um, great stuff out of and congratulations to South Lake Carroll Lady Dragons. Well earned for them to win that 6A classification title. Oh, I think you're on mute.
There we go. It goes to the point of what we were just discussing. What Rafa had asked you, what you were mentioning, is that if that is indeed the case, right, with some of the Houston schools, as far as some of their players not quote unquote being allowed, which still baffles me, but that's a whole other conversation. But one of the things you mentioned, it's a perfect segue with South Lake Carroll, because South Lake Carroll has pretty much every player there is a club player, and you have 3 players that are in the U.S. Youth National Team pool, right? And this is kind of this the state becomes better. The opponent gets better by seeing that type of experience, that type of play as well. So, and then we get treated just as coaches, as spectators, we get treated to get to watch phenomenal players, phenomenal teams, and they get to represent their community. So yeah, I mean, that's such a great point, a perfect segue with what you all were just discussing. So, Rafa, how about you?
I think maybe one thing I think to look in the future for like some of these teams is maybe like we talked earlier. So maybe scheduling games in that area to kind of close that gap, and that one of the things I've seen. Like I said, like teams like the boys like Lake Travis and Lee and Reagan, and for here in Region 4, they're going to that North Texas Elite Showcase, and they're playing to that level, and then they're getting used to that speed of play, that they're not surprised. So when they do face those teams, they're not shocked at how fast things are going, or they're not caught off guard. I think maybe for the girls' side, that maybe needs to be done, because I have gone to a couple of some games here, and like I said, there are competitive showcases here too. Like I said, South Lake Carroll came over here to San Antonio to play, and they played some great teams. But some of our San Antonio teams, and even the Houston area teams, maybe need to start going out north and playing some of these games to kind of see where they at the level, and as far as competing, and then use that to compare. Use that to prepare for preparations for when they do make deep runs in the playoffs.
Right.
Yeah. And I think for me, from my perspective, kind of the signature moment, it's really it's kind of a two-parter, really, but it's really all in one at the same time. Is just the I like to call it the arrival, really, of 4A. What we got to witness in 4A. I firmly believe that probably the best the best match that we were treated to all week was that Salina Midlothian Heritage girls 4A state final. I mean, it was unbelievable. It was I go back to it for Star Telegram writer Brian Gossett said, it's like, hey, this is one for the ages, one of the best I've ever seen, and I agree with that. It was just true. I know Rafa always likes to have his boxing analogies, right? That was a real kind of Ali and Frazier there, and we won. Collectively, we won. We got to see it,
right.
And just so much exceptional talent on both sides. For Salina and Midlothian Heritage, and then even on the boys' side, right? Bernie going back to back, but it was Salina giving a valiant effort on the boys' side, and it was, again, these were 4A teams, right? Who aren't supposed to be quote unquote as talented, as good, and the reality is they were every bit as good as these 5A teams and these 6A teams that we were seeing So yeah, I think it was just go that run to the state tournament and then the state tournament itself. We were treated to some exceptional matchups by the 4A classification. So to all coaches, all players, for all 8 teams that qualified for this year's 4A state tournament, thank you. We really appreciate that. Thank you. So
Right.
awesome, Steve. Well, hey, we appreciate you coming on, and we thank you for your time. We look forward to having you on again in the near future. Part of the reason why we wanted you to come on, particularly with that regional breakdown, is because this is going to kind of propel us for some of our future panel discussions that we plan on having regarding just that. So again, we appreciate you. We thank you for your time, and we look forward to hearing from you soon.
Yeah, thanks a lot, fellas. I appreciate you guys having me on, and happy Easter as well.
Happy Easter, my man. Take care, buddy. We'll see you.
All right, you too. Bye.
Have a good day. Bye.
You too.
All right, man. What do you think? Some interesting numbers, huh?
Yeah, and I mean that's kind of eye opening for some, and whoever's watching, they're probably like, "Hey, we probably need to do something to close the gap." And like I said, was like Steve mentioned, I've coached club and I've gone out to Houston for tournaments and stuff, and there's a lot of great talent there. I know with the team I coach, that one year we won the Texas Cup, we beat Rayado's academy team that was ranked number 2 in the state, and they were top to bottom very talented and stuff, and that surprises me that what's for some of those high school teams are not able to take that next step. And it's been a while since, he mentioned about Ailey Felsick winning the state title, and I think it's been a while for the girls too. I think maybe Friendswood or Katie Taylor has been probably one of the last ones that won, I think, a state title from that region. And hopefully, like I said, I think all of this is looking at those numbers, and anyone's watching, it's a learning experience. It's also the preparation for next year. You're gonna have to in order for you to compete to that next level, you're gonna have to play teams that are out of your element, and or a different style or different game speed, and so that way you can reevaluate. Okay, what do I need to do to to fix some things, but also if I do see a team similar to that, I have a game plan, and my players are not caught by surprise, and they're well prepared to play a team like that, that style and so forth.
Right. Yeah. No, well said, and thank you again to Steve for coming on. Gave us some great info, great insight as well. So, all right, Coach, we start segueing here and we start wrapping it up. That does it for the 2022 state tournament and the 2022 season. What are you look back on it? Maybe some 1 or 2 key points that you look back on that you wanted to highlight for the season that was.
I think the one thing is we kind of went back to the season felt a little bit more normal. I know last year we still had the little kind of the COVID hangover, and we weren't too sure if we was going to, we're kind of walking on eggshells if if are we going to cancel games in the playoffs and not have a state champion, and then even going into the fall too, with Omicron going around, and when people are thinking, well, are we going to have a season, 2022 season? But luckily we didn't have really much. There was a couple of little cases here and there, but it didn't affect many of the teams, and didn't affect the playoffs. And like I said, now we have, like I said, the 6 state champions that we have here for for all the classifications. So we didn't get off, lose much as far as with that. And then the other thing is the coverage. That it deserves. It deserves. We just we get back put on the back burner because of football, maybe even because of basketball too as well. But but now we're starting to see more and more of just the analysis, the coverage, the recognition of these players and these programs and so forth. And and one thing covering this thing is when we do these things, you got to make sure you're analyzing right, you're putting the right analysis, and and giving this just because you want to excel, and I want this the soccer program here in Texas to really excel, because I have for me personally, I think we could be one of the biggest sports here in the state, and it's starting to become that. I know we're not maybe get to the football yet, but hey, it's getting that attention, especially some of the players. Some are playing for the national team. Getting call ups, and especially the players getting playing in college and so forth. So we're starting to see all that. It's just due, and like I say, it's great to be part of it. And like I said, looking forward, like I said, for the next season, there's going to be a lot of scenarios now with the changes, now with realignment and some new schools popping up, and who's in what district and so forth. And it's going to be some interesting scenarios going into 2020 to the 2023 season. Their microphone's off. Yeah.
This is the second time here, so thank you for that. So, well said. I think this is why. Yeah, I mean, that you hit on some of that stuff that I wanted to hit on. You closer to normal, and just the ongoing, the normal piece. What was great to watch about that was just closer and closer to the return of the pageantry and the support of the teams, of the programs, of the student athletes, right? And so yeah, that was great to watch. Watching, getting to see some of the games that we covered as well, getting to watch some very big crowds, and some very big crowds, and some very just good, well behaved, but still highly supportive and animated crowds as well. So that was great to watch as well. So that was good. So kudos to the fans, the supporters, the parents of Texas high school soccer student athletes, and then to the coaches, to the administrators, to the athletic trainers, to the athletic coordinators, all these people that make it possible for our student athletes to shine. Thank you for the product that we're putting. Far from where we want it in terms of the product that we're putting on the field. We all understand that. We all admit that. But it's a ongoing commitment to want to do better, to want to be better by our student athletes. So, yeah. So I would definitely agree with that as well. And then, you hit on the other piece too, in terms of the ongoing growing coverage from your quote unquote traditional media, right? Your sports writers, to some of your more independents, and doing it on the on the state level scale as well. One in particular is our guy Lethal Enforcer, who has been doing a lot of great stuff on different levels as well, and we appreciate his efforts. We appreciate their efforts, and thank you for that, because at the end of the day, the state of Texas gains from that. So grateful to some of the independent coverage, the photographers, all of that stuff. We're grateful for that, and it matters. I know our student athletes, our parents, it matters to them. And then the other piece too, believe it or not, is a lot of the club coaches. A lot of the club coaches across the state, in this region in particular, getting out there, being very supportive of their athletes as it pertains to them on the student athletes side, playing for their schools. A lot more clubs tend to grasp the fact that this means a lot to student athletes in our country, in our state. It is what makes us different. And I think they can coexist. So, and those relationships that I'm seeing more and more, still a long way to go, but a lot more relationships between high school coaches and club coaches, because in the end, the ones that stand to gain are all of us. So very glad to see that as well. So, all right, Rafa, final thoughts on as we wrap this one up.
Just like what you mentioned about the playing with the high school teams and the club coaches going out, the club coaches need to understand, there's a sense of pride wearing your high school colors, wearing putting that badge on, just as like the same with wearing your club team, so don't discourage them from not playing for their high school team, because it means a lot, and also it creates memories for a lot of their peers, from beyond and so forth. But it also allows for the sport to grow. And so like I said, congrats to all those coaches out there going. Like I said, I remember when I coached club and I would go watch my players during the off season. see what they're doing, and yeah, I'd critique them after the after the games and tell them, "Hey, why are you doing this?" And I said, "I didn't teach you how to do that," but it was all in good fun just to make them a better player. Say, "Hey, your teams depend on you." So, but I think final thought is like I said, this has been a great season. And like I said, congratulations not only to all the state champions, but to all the teams, whether you made the playoffs or not. You guys are the foundation for this sport to help grow. And without you guys, like I said, this won't be. We can't take it to the next level. And like I said, we're hoping to take it to the next level. And then also all the people that cover it now. Just not bang on the team and this and that just because they're in the playoffs or the popular team. Kudos to the ones that from the start are from the start of the season going out there featuring these players, from all the classifications from 4A, 5A, 6A. They're all important to us. Whether you're in the Metroplex, you're in Houston, the Valley, El Paso, Panhandle, you guys are all important, and you guys make this sport great for us. And like I said, I can't be more proud of you guys for a great season. And I look forward for another great season, 2023.
Yeah, well done. Well said. Absolutely. And my final thoughts, first and foremost, before I forget, because I will forget. Great to work with you. Thank you. Another season in the books. Great to work with Harry. Shout out to Harry Austin, Mr. Ed Ramin Cole, for a lot of behind the scenes support as well for both you and I inside Texas high school soccer, on top of what he does with the San Antonio Soccer Roundtable. So big shout out to him. Thank you, Harry. Appreciate you. And then last piece, got to go. I cannot go without acknowledging our title sponsor in College Promoters USA. Again, they are America's premier college prep program and high school student athlete marketing service since 1997. Appreciate, President Greg Smith, Vice President Andy Brown, our Director of Scouting, JM John Michael Hernandez, just to name a few, and then the rest of our staff there. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your support of the podcast, the 50/50 podcast, and then our spinoff series here inside Texas High School Soccer. And also thank you to our college coaches that we've had on at any point during the 50/50 podcast, and your work with us in continuing to try to find, being really committed to the state of Texas in terms of your recruiting and listening to us coming on here, because it makes a difference. And the feedback that we get is great. So very grateful for our college coaches that have come on here that are willing to make themselves accessible as well. So grateful for that. And then last note, we will be coming over the next probably week or two, maybe. We will be having some special edition or championship editions of Inside Texas High School Soccer, where we will, if all goes well, we will come to you with state championship winning coaches, maybe one or two players as well. So be on the lookout for that, because some of that will be coming this week and possibly next week as well. So again, cannot thank you enough. It's been a great season. Rafa, thank you. Appreciate you, buddy. And also got to give a special shout out to behind the scenes, my wife, who does a ton of just putting up with me and also supporting the podcast. So thank you to my wife. I love you. I appreciate that.
Well, I appreciate also you having you on our live our game streams that we've covered, and like I said, props to all the ones like Mike and this, Salina and all that. That's all the ones who've sent positive and great messages. Just thank you guys. Without you guys, we can't accomplish that, and hopefully we'll get to live stream some more games together and just enjoy some great soccer.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's been a great one. So thank you again. The 2022 season in the books, and we'll be coming to you soon, like we said, with some special championship edition episodes. So be on the lookout for those. And to everybody, we sincerely appreciate you. Thank you for the love. Thank you for the feedback. Thank you for your support. And please continue to go. Again, you can find the audio podcast on all major podcast platforms as well. Please go on there, rate us, subscribe, rate us on YouTube, subscribe, the notifications. This way, whenever we're going live as well. So it makes a big difference in terms of algorithms and how much more how much more content we can bring you. So we would definitely appreciate that. So thank you again to everybody, and you know what to do. Until the next time, keep downloading and keep listening. You've been listening to the 50/50 podcast, powered by College Promoters USA. Help us continue to grow by liking, rating, and subscribing on all major podcast platforms. And don't forget to follow us on Twitter at 50_50pod, on Instagram at 50_50 podcast, as well as on YouTube at the 50_50 podcast. Until the next time,